My name is Craig. I'm 36 years old, and I've lived in Woodstock my whole life. You know this place, it's changing fast now. New cafes, art murals, young people with laptops and dreams. But back in 2007, it was quieter, grittier, real. And that's when I met her. Asheefa. I still say her name like a prayer sometimes, quietly. Like if I say it too loud, the memory might shatter. I met her at that little used bookstore on Albert Road, the one that smelled of old paper, dust, and bergamot tea. She was arguing with the owner about whether Cry, the beloved country, was a love story or a tragedy. Her voice, warm, certain, full of life, cut through the quiet like sunshine through clouds. I stood there holding a battered copy of The Heart is a Lonely Hunter, just watching. She turned, caught my eye, and laughed. Not at me, with me, like I was already part of the joke. That laugh, it wrapped around me and never really let go. We started meeting after work, coffee at that place near the station, the one with mismatched chairs and a ginger cat that slept on the counter like it owned the place. We talked about everything, our mother's recipes, our fears of never being enough, the way Table Mountain mist rolled in like a ghost some afternoons. Time didn't feel like minutes or hours with her. It felt like breathing, the kind you don't notice until it's gone. And then came the beach. Mooly Point, usually. Sometimes Sea Point when the wind was kind. Asheefa would kick off her sandals the second her feet hit the sand. Feel it, she'd say, grabbing my hand. Really feel it, and I would. The cold Atlantic biting at my ankles, the grit between my toes, her fingers laced with mine. It all felt sacred. Once during a stormy sunset, she held up a tiny iridescent shell and said, "This is our treasure. Don't lose it." I kept it in my wallet for years. I still have it. One Sunday, we lay on a faded blue blanket as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in coral and violet. She rested her head on my chest. "Do you think we'll still be here in 20 years?" she asked, tracing slow circles on my arm. I kissed her hair, salty, sun-warmed, and said, "I hope so." She smiled against my shirt. "Me too." We went to live shows at the waiting room. She loved local bands, especially that indie group with the violinist who played barefoot. Asheefa would close her eyes, sway, let the music move through her like it was part of her bones. And I'd stand behind her, hands on her hips, chin on her shoulder, whispering lyrics in her ear even when I didn't know the words. She never minded. She just leaned back into me, like home. Afterward, we'd stop at that 24-hour diner near Boynton Gracht. She'd order extra fries, dip them in ketchup, and feed me one with that look, playful, daring, like she knew I'd do anything she asked. And I would have. Anything. Even when the coffee tasted like burnt rubber and the booth seat had a tear, it felt like a palace, because she was there. Her family welcomed me like I'd always belonged. Her dad, a retired teacher with kind eyes and calloused hands, would debate politics with me over steaming cups of rooibos tea. Her mom taught me how to make proper bready, slow-cooked, spiced just right, and always sent me home with leftovers wrapped in newspaper. And Asheefa, she'd sit beside me on their worn floral sofa, knee touching mine, fingers brushing my wrist like she was making sure I was real, like we were already married in spirit. I thought we were headed there, toward forever. But forever ended on a Tuesday in late November. We went to that little Italian place on Lower Main Road, the one with checkered tablecloths and candles stuck in old Chianti bottles. It was our anniversary of sorts. 6 months since our first real date. She was glowing that night, wore that deep red dress she knew I loved, the one that hugged her shoulders just so. Told me about a promotion at work, about planting jasmine on her balcony so the whole street would smell sweet. Her eyes sparkled in the candlelight. I felt lucky, like life had finally handed me something pure and worth protecting. And then, I ruined it. She mentioned wanting to move in together. Not right away, but maybe next year, once she saved a bit more. My heart should have soared. Instead, I panicked. That old fear of being tied down, of failing her, rose like bile. And instead of saying, "Yes, let's plan that," I joked, stupidly, cruelly, "Careful, Asheefa. You know my place is tiny, and I snore like a diesel engine." She laughed, but it was tight, forced. I doubled down, trying to be funny. Besides, your mom still looks at me like I'm about to steal her baklava and her daughter. That's when her smile vanished. She set her fork down, very carefully, like she was afraid it might break. "You think this is a joke?" she asked, voice low. "No, no," she cut in. "You always do this. When things get real, you hide behind sarcasm. Like love is something to be diffused." I reached for her hand. "Ebe, I didn't mean." "You never mean it," she said, pulling away. "That's the problem." The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was full of every time I dodged vulnerability, every time I'd chosen wit over warmth, every unspoken promise I'd failed to keep. The drive home was the longest 10 minutes of my life. Rain started falling, soft at first, then heavier. I kept glancing at her, hoping for a crack in her composure, a sign I could fix it, but she stared out the window, arms crossed, lips pressed tight, like I was already gone. The next week we tried. We really did. Coffee, texts that said thinking of you, awkward phone calls where we both pretended not to be crying. But the trust, it was like a vase dropped on tile. You can glue it back together, but the cracks remain, and every time you hold it, you remember how easily it shattered. One evening she came to my door, no knock, just stood there in the fading light, hands deep in her coat pockets, rain glistening in her hair. "I can't do this anymore, Craig," she said. "Do what?" I whispered, already knowing. "Love someone who's afraid to love me back, fully." I wanted to argue, to beg, to tell her I'd change, but the truth hung between us, heavy and undeniable. So I just nodded. She turned, walked away, and I let her. I didn't sleep for 3 nights, just sat on my floor, replaying every word, every missed chance to be softer, braver, present, wondering if love is ever enough when you don't know how to hold it gently. Years have passed. I've dated, laughed, even loved again, gently, cautiously. But Asheefa, she's the watermark on my soul, the quiet standard by which I measure kindness, presence, courage. Sometimes when the wind blows just right off the Atlantic, I swear I hear her laugh. Or I'll pass that bookstore, now a vegan bakery with succulents in the window, and catch the ghost of her perfume, jasmine and sea salt, and my chest tightens like it's still 2007. I don't regret loving her. I regret not loving her better. But maybe that's the gift in the grief. It taught me that love isn't just feeling, it's doing. Listening without waiting to speak. Showing up even when you're scared. Choosing someone, again and again, not just in grand gestures, but in the quiet, daily acts of care. I carry that now. In every relationship, in every quiet moment when I choose honesty over deflection, presence over performance, tenderness over cleverness. Asheefa didn't just break my heart, she remade it, carefully, painfully, beautifully. My name is Craig. This was Asheefa's story, and mine.